Guess what's happening in the auction? They're killing each other for that car. I mean, it's a bloodbath. It's a feeding frenzy. He had a 2010 Toyota Sequoia. 3 people were fighting over
The 289 million that are in the market today.
It's been north of 330 for many, many, many years. 5 hours later, father and his son shows up on that kid's TikTok ad, pays cash for the vehicle.
We're super excited to have you back on the show. Just in looking at your background, what you've done, you've been in the industry over 25 years. You've been helping dealers and lenders navigate really volatile times and been kind of that like source of truth for a lot of people in the industry. So we're just excited to kind of welcome you back to our show. Welcome back, Paul.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. It's a pleasure to be back. I've been looking forward to this.
You do have so much knowledge of what's going on in the industry as a whole. And I'd love to kind of take a step back and kind of look at things from like a wide angle lens and kind of talk to you about like what would you say is like the current state of the US vehicle landscape right now? Like what's on the road? What's the movement looking like? And kind of let's start there and we'll kind of work our way down.
We saw Q1 overall. Everyone got excited, especially when you looked at the SAR, the annual rate of sales that they were experiencing. It was really because of the fear of the unknown on the tariffs. How would it impact, both new vehicle sales and used vehicle sales? So you saw this rush, right? But now it's kind of leveled out, keeled out, and people are like, okay, it wasn't as intense as it was, but it further depleted our supply of used vehicles that normally would stretch out through the summer. So we are in the cycle that I predicted. The affordable class category of cars is going to be harder and harder to get, and I'm talking cars under $20,000, right? In Q1, Edmunds said that the average age of the trade-in was 7.6 years of age. Now think about that for a second. If it's 7.6 years of age, the average trade-in, that means that there wasn't enough 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, or even 4-year-old vehicles that were successfully traded in to dilute the average age of the vehicles in the market. Right. So if the average age is 7.6, what happened to those 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-old vehicles? We couldn't trade for them. More often than not, we couldn't trade for them. The average negative equity, 1 out of 4, is over $10,000. And if that's true, then 1 out of 4 is over 7,500 in negative equity. And if that's true, 1 out of 4 is over 5,000 in negative equity. Now you compound that with credit restrictions. As you know, lenders have kind of tightened up, because they're experiencing some things in the market that they knew was coming, but was praying it wouldn't happen. And so now those advances are not as aggressive anymore, and the terms are not as aggressive anymore. So these individuals who have these 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-old vehicles, and worse still, are the ones who financed a 2-year-old car in 2022 for more money than it sold for brand new, for longer terms than it was financed at. That car is really in a pickle. That owner is in a pickle. I've got a bunch of my buddies in the industry that are saying, here comes another a straw. Straw purchase is when you buy a vehicle for a family member or a friend in your name for them. Right. Well, they're calling a straw trade where consumers are coming in and saying, I want to buy this vehicle, keep my payments between $300 and $400 a month, and I'm not trading this car. I'm going to keep it because they already know. They already know.
It'd be so bad.
Yeah, they already know, and they have resolved to buy a vehicle that they can afford, drive it for 5, 6, 7 years, and let that one go back to the bank. So wow. We're seeing that now too.
Okay, so you mentioned the Edmunds study that talked about 1 out of 4 buyers is $10,000 underwater. That is like eye-opening. I know like everybody in the industry is kind of like saw this coming, but for consumers, like this is still a big deal for them. What would you say like for your dealer partners and friends in the industry, like how are they going to structure these deals in order to like work with these types of customers?
So right now it's about 30% of the population that can actually do the restructuring, right? They have the money down, they have the credit, they can get them qualified for the right term to be able to advance. And the lender has the right type of asset in stock to fit that requirement. I think it was last week, 22 or 23% of all the inventory listed was under $20,000 in the U.S. Right? And I said, well, let me preface: 2010 through 2024, under $20,000. Right? That's a very small number compared to what the demand is. And so at the lane at the auctions, you see a lot of bidding to try to get that car, and they're overpaying. So the struggle is to be able to work with that consumer who wants to kind of trade out of that. They have to have the right parameters, and this is where new car sales might benefit. But then there's another problem. What's the
Okay.
average price of a new car today?
Tell us, Paul. I know it's higher than what we want it to be. What is it?
It's 35,000, right? And that's more than what the average consumer can afford right now. And then you need to have some serious incentives, rebates, enabled to be able to help offset that negative equity. And then you got to have the right credit to get the right term through the factory. So you have all these compounding effects that's dealers having to be very creative. And I love that about the dealers. Incredibly resilient people, entrepreneurial at heart on every day. They're pivoting quick to make these decisions. And their number one desire is, I need more of that inventory right there, which I happen to be taking advantage of.
Yes, you're like, I have the solution to your problems. And they're only going to continue to get worse because, like you said, there's just not enough inventory at the price point that these consumers are wanting. And don't we also have to consider, like, for a lot of, like, let's look at like first time buyers, like they're coming into this marketplace and it's a whole different landscape for them.
And they're mostly first time buyers, mostly gravitate to an affordable used car, right?
That's where it used to be. Like, you're getting your first car, you're trying to see what you can get. And now they're having to make that decision. Like you said, like if their credit is good or in a good state, maybe they can get flipped to a new car if there's some good incentives. But a lot of people going for their first car, they're looking at, okay, like what kind of used car can I get? And there's like no inventory.
Right. And much less it being affordable. Right. So and here's the other, when you look at the car park as a whole, two vehicles in operation is a report that Experian Auto Credit puts out every quarter. Highly recommend it. It's an incredible report. Gives you some really good insight to what's on the road today that could be a potential trade-in, right, or a direct buy, right?
Okay.
So 289 million vehicles are in the market. Were in the market. I got the stats. I wanted to make sure I say this right.
Yeah, and is the 289 million that are in the market today, would you consider that to be low compared to previous years?
Yes, it's been north of 330 for many years, because there's been
low.
Yeah, when we're used to selling 16 to 18 million new cars every year, which we haven't even gotten to that number since 2020, right? So when you look at that, we've been depleting down the available inventory just in vehicles in operation. To give you an example, there are 289.6 million at the beginning of Q1. There were 16.1 million new registrations overall last year. Now you have to subtract, and this is what so few people don't think about. It's called scrappage rate. Cars that are no longer good, that just got to go to the auction for parts or get crushed. 12.2 million come out of the market.
Okay, to go to scrappage.
Right. So if we're only selling 13, 14 million on an annual rate like we have been for the last several years, and we got 12.2 million coming out of the market, we're not adding to the car park. We're decreasing it.
It does make sense. And I didn't even think of that. I feel like a lot of our listeners wouldn't have even thought of the vehicles that end up going to scrappage.
Yeah, because we're not selling enough to replenish all of that at the level we had before.
Right.
Now you take a look who's coming of age, right? First time car buyers, that 16-year-old kid. God, we talk about something that's scary.
You mean like the teen drivers, like they're about to get their
teen driving cars? That's a lot to think about. So, the average teen, there's something like 4 million turning 16 just this year, and then every year thereafter, millions of them. There's not enough of that first-time car for them to buy. That's considered, as a parent, that you'd want to. Number one, it's affordable, it's safe, and it'll run and drive well for at least 2 or 3 years.
We'll pause for 2 seconds. Let's take it back. What was your first car? And give us and I'll tell you mine after.
Yeah, I had a 1970 Chevelle, Chevy Nova 350.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's dope. That is a really, really cool car. Every time I hear about the Chevelles, I'm like, those are slick. Were
yeah.
you excited about it?
I didn't know what I had then. I
You didn't
didn't.
realize it.
No, I didn't realize it. It was just it was a vehicle that could get me to and from school and to and from work.
I'm gonna get you one that give you mine. You're gonna be surprised maybe. It was a 2008 white Volkswagen Beetle.
Mm, I could see you in a Beetle.
You could see me.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked seeing the flower in it. I think I ended up leasing it. My parents back then were heavy into leasing, so that's what we did. Now they've kind of pivoted into used cars, but I had a lease and it was exciting. And yeah, so I'm just thinking like the the 16-year, I mean, I didn't get my car at 16. I think I got it at 18, but like the 16-year-old that's like with their parents trying to figure out what car to get, it's just such a different landscape. And I just feel like, you and me both, we have to like arm the dealers with how to navigate through these different times of what to do. And it sounds like um, you have something really powerful that you can, give them as a resource that they could be looking into that they're not thinking about. So maybe dive into a little bit more of how you're able to do that.
Well, so let's go back to the repo market, right?
Okay.
Typical year in the repo industry is 1.9 to 2.1 million repos a year.
Okay.
All right, which is considered to be the average. Right now, at the end of April, it's over 2 million repossessions through the end of this year, through the end of April this year. So the what throws a monkey wrench into getting the real statistics on that is the lenders that have that number of repossessions are
Mhm.
holding it close to the chest. They really are trying not to report that. No, I got another 100,000 repos this month. They're
Yeah,
trying
I
not
don't want
to.
to do that.
Right. So you have 90-day late term payments that are really excessive, that are not being disclosed properly because the lenders are still trying to do some kind of work with the owner to see if they can keep them in the car. Right.
Okay.
So that's delaying the repossession rate. So the ones that did get repossessed and being are 2 million have already been in the works for at least 2 years before they finally got repossessed because of all the deferment plans and programs that were in place. Those original sets.
And then they like fell through. So then they had to go get those cars.
Yes, yes, and now, as I shared with you, we have there's a large percentage of the population that they're hopeless. They realize I owe too much on this vehicle. I can't continue making this $1,000, $1,500 car payment that I've got now.
Mm.
Um, I'd rather go buy that $300-$400 payment car and just let this one go back to the bank. And that's what they're doing, right? So when those start to hit, and they are, um, when they go through the auction, it'll help with inventory and supply. But if they're a good, what I call a unicorn, low miles per year, 0 to 4 years of age, guess what's happening in the auction? They're killing each other for that car. I mean,
Mm.
it's a bloodbath. It's a feeding frenzy. You know, it's almost as bad as it was in the early 2020s, right?
Okay.
Uh, that's how desperate it is. So what I'm doing is the lane's always going to be there. The brick and mortar auction will always be there. Um, there are dealers who set up really good buy centers, direct buy and online buying. This is a source that helps the lenders offset their overall total loss. They're still losing money, but just not as aggressively as it would be if they went the normal route. It gives them the option to participate in the retail ask of the vehicle, and they incent the dealer to do it. And the dealer gets a tremendous advantage in fixed operations. So if you're a dealer who's running an 80% service absorption, which means for a dealer, they want to get to 100%. That means that every vehicle they sell on the front end is pure profit because all the expenses of the entire store is paid for by fixed operations. So if
Right.
you're at 80% fixed ops and you're looking to get to 100%, my assets can get you there fast because these are heavy line service required vehicles. Because as repossessions, sometimes they're rough. We try to be full disclosure. We let you know up front. We have condition reports to go with every vehicle several times. There's like 25 or 30 photos about there might be a bumper scratch, and so you're going to get 25 photos all around this bumper. Just make sure that you are looking and understanding, because you can't physically be at the car. So it's what's interesting is that the dealers, even though we've trained them and taught them, when the car hits the ground, they're used car managers, and they're even they themselves like, I don't know how I can make money on this car, because they automatically go to the old mentality, which is I bought the car for X, and I'm going to fix it and do all this, and I'll own it for X, and then when I sell it, that spread is my profit.
Right.
Well, there's no X anymore. You don't own it, right? There's no X. And we're paying you to do everything that needs to be done to make it frontline ready to sell.
Wow. So they can just sell it, and then whatever they get from that is straight profit, you're saying?
From the fixed operation. So like, they keep 100% of the recon approved that we've offered them. And that's where I come in, is I take some of that information. I work with my upstream partners, and we come to an agreement. Can we fix the vehicle for this much money and have it meet state inspection, safety, and mechanical inspections at the dealer level? Basic retail ready. We're not
Okay.
looking for a car to be showroom, right? Neither is John Q. Public, who's desperate for that $300 or $400 payment. They just want a good vehicle to get from A to B for the next couple of years. And that's what we're doing. And we're also making sure that they understand that F&I is a big thing for them. They really have to focus on their F&I process. So if they are an upstart customer, they will absolutely take advantage of your incredible programs that you guys help dealers understand. They can get the kind of terms they need. They can get the advances they need. They can do things because you're non-traditional, so to speak. I
Right.
love that part.
No, definitely. Man, you said a lot of great stuff there. I was like, I want to dig into certain things you had said. So, quick thing. You mentioned that there's a lot of these buyers right now that are underwater. They have this payment that's too much, and they have to basically just let it go back to the bank. But then they still need to get another vehicle and try to keep the payments low. How is that customer even going to be able to get another vehicle that it shows on their report that they have this like unpaid auto loan or repo? And like, how does that work? Because I was trying to understand, like, what does that customer do if they're letting their vehicle go to the wayside to get repoed, and then they got to try to get something else?
A lot of times it's not showing on credit yet, because if
Oh.
you go back to what I said, the lender doesn't want to report it yet.
Ah, okay. So it's like this window of time that if they're smart, they can like get in there before it shows up.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
unfortunately, we discussed this. I've discussed it many times on my vlogs in 2023, that this is what's going to happen today.
You predicted it. You
Mhm.
predicted it back then. You're always ahead of the game. You're talking about the K-shaped economy. I remember all the things that you out. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm also curious your perspective on this because we've started to see a rise in longer loan terms
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
even going past 72 months. And I know for us, like we do some of that, but there's definitely a lot of that going on. What do you think is driving those trends, and what do you think dealers should do to kind of adjust their sales to kind of deal with that?
It's the payment. The only reason why you would stretch out to a term is to bring the payment in line to what can be affordable.
Right.
And so the lenders, we're a credit driven economy. All right. That's until we become a manufacturer based, retail based economy, we need to be a credit driven economy. And we've been that way for a long time. So we are dependent. It's a vicious symbiotic relationship that we have with our financial partners, all the banks, and then with the retail industry. They are so ingrained with each other that if one gets out of sorts, it affects the other big time, right?
Mhm.
So the longer terms has been necessary because of the price increases, both on used cars and new cars. When I looked at a buddy sent me, said, "Dude, can you help me buy this vehicle?" And it was was the new version of the Blazer,
Okay.
um, and it was almost $85,000, and it's a four-cylinder turbocharged all-wheel drive vehicle. And I couldn't get over, how expensive this thing is, uh, and it was insane. It was, but after rebates and discounts and whatnot, he felt good because he got almost 20 some odd $1,000s off of it. But it was still almost 60,000. When you look at it, but it, I can't see that, right? But in order to get the payment, he had to go longer term.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. You got to stretch it out so that the payment can be lower because people are getting very much into like what I can pay per month, not looking at the big picture of what the whole thing is looking like. That makes sense. Um, I want to get from your mouth because, as we meet and I always get all the knowledge and insights from you, what would you say today, where we are, we're about to get into August. What does it look like from a tariff standpoint today? Like, what is happening with that? And is it what we expected? Is it changed? How did the tariffs impact and what's going on with them?
Well, on the used vehicle vertical, nothing,
Sure. Nothing.
right? But obviously, the retail industry will take advantage of that. Excuse me, it will take advantage of that and still justify a higher price and say tariffs because John Q. Public doesn't understand how the tariffs are working. On the new vehicle side, it really only is significant against those vehicles that have a higher percentage of foreign made components in it. Right? I'll give you an example. Cadillac. Cadillac's Lyric is made in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Right?
Mm,
So it's up until like, I think it's 85% of that vehicle entirely is manufactured and done in Spring Hill, Tennessee. But the major component that makes the whole thing run is the drivetrain, the electric vehicle, the electric vehicle system. Well, that 15% is taxed at the 25 or 30% or whatever the government's playing with the tariffs as a negotiating strategy,
right.
right? So it's up and down, it's up and down. But on that, in that example, that 15% of that vehicle is what gets taxed at whatever the tariff rate is at that moment.
Okay.
So you get a Mercedes Benz 100% made and built in Germany. Here, the tax is going to be higher on that versus a Mercedes that's assembled here in the US using US made parts and components. And any foreign parts that come in, that's what gets taxed at, not the whole car.
That makes sense. Do you feel like the dealers have done a good job in educating the consumers about this and kind of guiding them towards which vehicles are going to make the most sense? Or do you think there's enough like publicly available information for a consumer that wants to buy something that is built here to try to avoid tariffs and things like how would they even know what to look for?
They don't and no. Yeah, I would love to say, Danielle, that there has been such a concerted effort to educate John Q. Public.
Sounds
You
like
don't
they're out.
hear it. Yeah, you don't hear it in the media. There's not one media outlet that'll spend any time educating. Well, this is how you should do it. All right, these are the cars that are the most impacted. These are the cars that are the least impacted. You get that from people like you and I.
Yeah.
That's how the message is getting out there, and that's very sad.
Yeah.
I do know of a handful of real strong professionals in the industry that when they're engaged helping customers buy their vehicles and trading for their cars, and they will educate, but there's just not enough of them.
There's definitely a need for more of that because this is something that doesn't seem like it's going to be going away anytime soon. It's going to continue to be a negotiation for the government, and it's going to continue to happen. So we'll have to kind of see what plays out and what continues to swing. Would you say that like the OEMs have had to adjust and try to make their incentives be more enticing because everybody the people at least that kind of know the auto industry when this all came about is like let's just focus on used cars and that kind of like depleted that amount but like the OEMs have to kind of respond and say like well we still need to sell cars too like what do these incentives and rebates look like?
I think you'll see they will get stronger as the year goes on. It gets long. Without naming certain OEMs, there are some OEMs that have 3 years worth of inventory of certain models on the ground. Now the OEM's fine because they sold that vehicle to the dealer. The
Mm,
dealer's the one that has the problem. They've
right.
got 3 years worth of a certain year, make, model, brand in stock.
They can't
Right?
get rid
That's
of.
no, that nobody's opening the door. Um, some of these full size trucks that were traditionally V8s that now either have a 4 cylinder with a turbo or a 6 cylinder with a turbo, poorly underperforming for the weight and size of the truck. Those trucks aren't getting sold, right?
Mm-mm.
Uh, there's been a drawback, a pullback on buying electric vehicles. So now
Right.
there's a surge in supply of electric vehicles. So I think you'll start seeing some incentives and discounts heading that way. Um, but the OEs will step up and start doing something once they understand how the tariffs are working. And there are several senators who are former dealers who are working on uh, an I could just say this: they're working on some plans to put some a regulation in place to help the factories with structuring better plans, better incentives, and rebates and whatnot. And basically an incentive to help stimulate the new vehicle market, which is needed today.
Okay, so what you're saying is the future could be looking bright with some of
Oh,
these
it's totally
changes
right.
that are
Yeah.
coming, and things could be looking up. So that kind of segues me into one of my last questions for you. Like, for the dealers listening that are probably feeling overwhelmed with all of this economic noise of what's going on, what would you say is like one key takeaway or mindset shift that you would want to leave them with so that they can go into this next quarter, next month, and feel better about what's going on?
Oh, first, this reality is here for at least until mid 2028. All right, there's no way around it. Uh, and I think they need to do what we have always done best, which is we pivot quickly as an industry, we adapt quickly, and we change. Right when they can focus on what they can control and realize the way I've always done it, it's not going to work anymore. I got to do something different and stay calm at the same time. Those two things are don't go well in a traditional dealership. There's no very few calmness. Everyone's always going like this, right? There's not a whole lot of calm in a store, but they need to slow down a little bit so they can speed up. I think the focus in the used vehicle arena needs to be more, needs to have a pivot change. You know, buying any car just so you can have your lot full is no longer what you need to do. You have to have the right kind of inventory that fits your local market demographics because you're not drawing out from anymore. I give you a great example. One of my clients, he got, I got most of my assets are there. I call them unicorns, right? He
Okay.
had a 2010 Toyota Sequoia with 112,000 miles, all-wheel drive. First of all, it's a Toyota, it's a Sequoia, it's an all-wheel drive, and it only has 112,000 miles as a 2010. Ridiculously low miles. Ridiculous, right? And his first thought was, who's going to buy this car? I said, are you kidding me?
Everybody's going to want to buy this car, especially a family.
Family, right? I said, your first 3 or 4 clients is probably going to be a dad trying to buy a car for his wife who doesn't want a minivan, but she wants that because it seats 8 people and it sits high off the ground and it's an all-wheel drive and it's a tank and you can get almost 1 million miles out of these things. And he said, what do I do? I said, you're going to have to market greater than 200 to 300 miles. All I did is I took all of his data, stuff that used to take me 3 and 4 hours of research, going to different websites. I did it in 90 seconds using AI.
I
Man,
love that.
I put together a marketing strategy for him and whatnot, and he just told me he sold it this weekend. 3 people were fighting over it. It was a mother, a father, and a couple, all trying to see who can get that car first. And he was like, they fit what you said. So, in my opinion, dealers need to do that when they look at the asset. Who wants that car? How should I market it for that person? And how many people like that are in my marketplace and develop that strategy using TikTok. I did not realize how powerful their reach is in
So
advertising,
powerful.
right? And one of my business partner hired this kid. Kid was like 20 years old,
Mhm.
flip flops and whatnot. We helped him dress him up right. We own a dealership in Alvin, Texas, so we helped him the kid get dressed up. And first thing he says, "Boss, you're not on TikTok." And he's like,
What do I do?
"Yeah, should we? Why?"
Should we be? Why?
And the kid said, "Well, can I create TikTok?" And he spent all afternoon, you know, walking around, taking videos of himself in the car. 5 hours later, we had a car that had been in stock over 63 days of age. It was a Ford Mustang 5.0. 5 hours later, father and a son shows up on that kid's TikTok ad, pays cash for the vehicle. We've been doing it ever since. And it's a part of our media platform that we offer now. We are the largest provider of TikTok media placements for our dealers. And so thinking, you hear me say this, right? You don't got to throw the box out. There is no box. All right. Just forget the box. It just anything works. You just got to try it.
Oh my gosh. I am so happy that you said that last thing about TikTok because I've been preaching it to anybody that could hear me, the
Mm-hmm.
importance of dealers taking that seriously. And whenever I bring it up, whether it be with different guests on this podcast, different co-hosts I've had in the past, they've always told me, well, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? And they like want to go back and forth. And since there's not a lot of like true data yet that it's driving enough ROI, that is the type of example that we need. It's just take somebody who's willing to put the effort in and actually go and do it. It's going to start bringing that awareness and intrigue, and people are going to come. So I'm so glad that you said that and that you offer that as a resource to your dealers, because if they're not on these platforms, they're going to be left. That's how I feel. Like, you might as well do it so you can separate yourself from the thousands of other dealers that say, well, I'm not going to mess with that because I don't know what the ROI is. You know?
It's almost nothing. I mean, and our people, we're not hiring, polished models and actors and actresses. These are
We want to
mostly,
see the real. The real's
yeah, these are
better.
real people that's, they're connecting with their tribe, their audiences. We have a dealership, I'll go back in Texas, he was missing his retro money on electric vehicles. So we said, let's have fewer vehicles, and we'll post one every single day for you. By the end of that 30 days, he hit all of his retro money the next month because of that.
No.
And it wasn't anything we were doing. It was like you said, real people connecting with other real people. Mm-hmm. And it's like the bell clip. The traditional models of advertising is gone out the window. I'm just like I said, there is no box. Don't think out, because even if you think outside of the box, you're only going to stay right outside the box.
Yeah.
Try everything and then manage it.
Yes. Well, I am so glad that you left us with such a powerful key insight there. And I always love our conversations because I always walk away with them feeling like I've learned a bunch. You've inspired me. And I just always look forward to getting to see you again in person sometime soon, hopefully at a conference or industry event. But Paul, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing so many amazing tips and tricks and things. And I'm just so excited for this conversation that we've had.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the next one to give you another update. This is it's been fun.
Oh, it's been amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul. And until next time, you know how to, where can people find you? How can they get in touch? How can they get into your inbox?
So it's Paul at Vintrax.com or Machine Automotive Consulting at gmail.com. And then my go-to 864-238-1234. It's that easy. It's the same number I've had for over 30 some odd years.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul.